and welcome to our Q&A here. I hope you enjoyed Creed 3, and I look at who I've got here. I've got so many great people involved with the making of this film, leading off with that, with Michael B.Jordan, its star, its director, and producer. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, what's going on, B? Good seeing you again, man.
Fun stuff. And look at the crowd we have here that worked with you on this film, all here virtually with us. Let me introduce them as well. Kramer Moregenthau is the cinematographer. Great job, too. Jahmin, Assa, is the production designer. Hi, Jahmin.
Hi.
All right, we have Jess, Baclesse, who's a film editor, worked on the film with Tyler Wilson, our partner on this. We have
Johnson.
Yeah, hi, Jess, and we have composer Joseph Shirley. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Pete. How's it going?
Very good, very good. And we have the hair department head, Elizabeth Robinson. Hi.
Hi, Pete. Hi, everyone.
All right. Well, let me get right to it with you, Michael. This you chose to be your directorial debut, going into the third feature with the Creed series here. Of course, married to the Rocky series before that and all of that, a long cinematic legacy here. Why did you decide to direct this one? What inspired you on this particular installment?
I think it was a lot of different reasons why. It wasn't just one thing. I think it started with Ryan Coogler, being able to see him start the franchise off and seeing somebody that looked like me, was close in age to myself, direct a major franchise like this gave me a little bit of that confidence. And, we've had conversations around it, and, he was like, look, Mike, you got to jump in, behind the camera eventually, and what better to do it with, a movie that, like with this one. Also, what played a huge part is that, this is the only time I played the character 3 times. I was very familiar with the character, the world, the family. And by the third time comes around, as an actor, nobody kind of knows the character more than me, and I felt like it was the proper time to really take the Creed family in a direction that I saw it going in. And, and that and knowing that, I can assemble, a team of people that I've already worked with before, that I had a shorthand with, especially Kramer. I think Kramer played a huge part in that as well. Just because this is like our 4th film that, we've done together, and we've, developed the chemistry, that I knew would have my back, in a lot of ways, along with with Erwin Winkler, him, handing me the keys, like this is something that has kind of been, obviously, with Sly Stallone and the Rocky franchise, and now the Creed, it's a world that exists. So to be, it took all those kind of things to kind of come together in a real way for me to feel really good about stepping behind the camera and telling the story.
And this one, I think, had some personal stuff going on for you, too. I mean, you related to it. You obviously know the character and everything. But a lot of what this particular installment is about reflects lessons learned from your own life and things you wanted to put in it and make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said, this is the 3rd time I played this character over the past decade, and I've done a lot of growing and lived a lot of life in that time. And I think, as somebody like Adonis Creed, who, has gotten some professional success, who's lived his life, in public eye, and what that does to a young black man in America, and how he navigates those things, with that pressure, with his family, with, childhood trauma, with, how to be, how to act, how to present. Like, there's a lot of things that, I think I've personally had some personal experiences with in my own life, and could only imagine that Adonis might be going through some of those same thought process and feelings and insecurities and vulnerable moments, and felt like I could help tell that story and tell that lens, and yeah. So I think there's a little bit of that as well. Obviously, there's a lot of things that don't relate, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that I think people out there would be able to kind of understand and connect with. and not just with Adonis, with all the other characters and the themes throughout the movie, family. I think those family dynamics is a huge component of that. And everybody has some type of family dynamic that I thought they could see a little bit of their own personal experience or a dynamic that they might know about that they could connect to.
Yeah, for sure. And you got a chance here to work as a director with all of these terrific people behind the scenes, they say here. What was that like for you as a director in collaborating here with everyone on?
I mean, it was awesome. I think it was, for me, you have to learn everybody's love language. I think, communicate how everybody, because everybody's different. Everybody has a different approach and a lens. And I think being able to go from department to department and understanding what they need and, for me, and what I need from them and how to get the best out of everyone and vice versa. I think that was something that was really enjoyable. Jess and Tyler were amazing in the edit, and that's you write one movie, you shoot one movie, and you edit one movie, and I think that editing process and the power of the editing, what you can achieve and the moments that you can find and, how just, pushed and I call it Reki, sometimes that was a nickname because sometimes it's just like, scenes and moments that I would have given my left arm for in pre-production or while we're shooting, in the edit. She's like, all right, we're just going to take this and, just throw it away. You know what I mean? And we're not even going to, we're just going to blow that thing up. But it challenged us to kind of look at story different and pacing and the movie got better because of it, and, Jahmin, and his amazing work with, production design and creating these, the setting and these worlds and with so much scope, and these beautiful homes and just we shot the movie in Atlanta, but the movie so much of it is a LA story. It's the character of Los Angeles is a main character in this movie, and the terrific work that he did with building out the Delphi gym to the rings and, Adonis's home and the studios and all that stuff, man. He did an incredible job with, with the budget that we had, making a lot out of a little, what I'm saying? It went a long way and it made the scenes look amazing. Elizabeth did a phenomenal job. I think, especially with the work with Felicia, Rashad, and Tessa Thompson, I think those characters being like the matriarchs of the story, and how Adonis has been really surrounded with such strong women in this movie, and the regalness of Marianne, knowing that that we were going to lose her in this movie, in this story, the way we arced her, her character arc through the looks that we had, and obviously having a wife in Bianca as that was our Beyonce, what I'm saying, in our world as this musician, as this artist, as this, as a mother, and all the dynamic hairstyles and things that came along with her and her looks, was it just gave it that level. It elevated it in such a high way compared to where we first met her in Creed 1. And then, Joe, Joe is phenomenal. And, how much the score actually plays a part, in these movies. I think we get a chance to see, the progression from Creed 1 to now. And, those original Bill Canty, scores and what that did to the Rocky franchise. We want to create our own version of that for Adonis in this and Creed. He deserved that. And the work that he did throughout the movie with pacing and all the emotional ups and downs that we had in this movie. But then also the fun that we had in crafting, like with this orchestra and the symphony when we did, the final fight and how we played into those dramatic scenes between Adonis and Damien. It was really a treat to kind of see him work and put his fingerprints all over that. And I can't speak enough about Kramer. I think spent so much time with him and the visual language that we wanted to create. from, just from the intimate scenes that we had, to, the days that I was like, all right, where are we putting the camera? I have no idea. Like, all right, what are we doing here? And us finding it, and letting the actors sometimes dictate, how we shot it. Obviously there were some scenes that we were really intentional and premeditated with, that we have to be, especially with the boxing and things of that nature, that we had to kind of be a little more specific on, but the way he challenged me with lighting, and how that really told a big story, in the fights, and throughout the whole movie. Like we pushed the genre a little bit into this thriller genre. We wanted to push this franchise and give it a different look and feel than the other movies. And between Kramer and Jahmin, I think we accomplished something that feels and looks different than any of the other movies.
Yeah, let me start with you, Kramer, on that. And I was interested to see how you used IMAX here, because it hasn't been used in this way before. IMAX digital cameras, the expanded aspect ratio, all of that going into play here, which is different than we've ever seen before in this.
Yeah, thanks, Pete, for asking about that. I think Michael wanted to, push this movie as far as he could go. It was his first time out as a director, and he just wanted to come out swinging with all the, all the tools in the toolbox, not just for the sake of using them, but for kind of pushing, the franchise and the genre to its absolute limit, sort of breaking out of the bounds of being in a movie that is in a franchise, a ninth in a franchise, and I think you want to make a stamp on it, and so we used IMAX cameras strictly for the boxing sequences, so they felt like you're entering this different world, like a world of gladiators.
No, man, that was a huge deal for us, to kind of get IMAX on board and really shoot these fights in a way that that has never really been done before, and what it lended to opening up that aspect ratio when Adonis walks out into the dugout, walks out of the dugout into Dodger Stadium, and you see just the screen open up a little bit, and now you're just completely immersed into that world with the fireworks and everything that we kind of developed around that, and we wanted every fight to feel different. The first fight in South Africa was we really started to plant the seeds of like this anime inspired kind of storytelling through fighting, and the way we use these close-ups and zoomed in, but Adonis is a we want to show him a veteran, the smarts of boxing, that it's a very intelligent sport. We wanted to show the thinking behind boxing in that first fight. The second one, we made it feel very, very visceral and violent. We wanted to show the brutality and like the violence and the gore of it, and what it could be. So we tied in a lot of elements around that through sound design, through visual effects, makeup, through the jarring camera movements and whatnot throughout that fight. And then the third fight is a mixture of all. It's kind of like a violent ballet. The way we kind of used all the elements leading up into that, especially when we go into the void. And then, obviously with the mixture of the set design, with the makeup, with the editing, the score, with the lighting, we really turned it into almost like a stage play and performance art, is what, with no words, all emotion, all grunts. So IMAX played a huge part in the cinematic experience.
Yeah, amazing to see in like a big giant theater too. This movie is made.
Yeah, it's breathtaking when you cut to the IMAX, especially the first time.
Extraordinary. And Jahmin, congratulations on turning Atlanta into high-end Los Angeles here. You could have fooled me, buddy.
Good.
Not easy to do. And what I thought was really interesting about this is you're dealing with a deaf a daughter here, and that is a big aspect of the design of this house, of going into that character using production design, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone, especially Michael and everyone, once we knew the character, was very conscious of trying to get as much knowledge and to understand, right? Because it's something different to understand when someone is deaf. And so we started to understand a lot is about vision, a lot is about light, a lot is about space, a lot is about not being surprised or someone coming upon you. And so we found some places that we built, and some, and it was a nice amalgamation where the two fused together really lovely. One of the things that really turned us on in Atlanta was challenging of finding houses that looked like Los Angeles, but the one thing that was and ended up being key was this sort of glass stairwell. And it seemed like such a great way, if you had the means to do that, you would build this landing so you would never be sort of, especially for a kid, be surprised, if someone sneaks up upon you. And that's the whole thing of that awareness. And I think that they did a great job, Michael, of the characters you start to really understand that, to always be present. And it's kind of a great lesson also when you realize with your own kids or with other people, where you're sort of like, when you're talking to someone who has a hearing, challenge hearing, you want them in front of you and you're going to give them your full focus. You can't sort of half do it. And I think that played a lot into a lot of our sound design. And it weirdly ended up playing into a lot of other characteristics that we did, where you could always see from one room to the next. Some through challenges of whether it was monetarily or space or whatever, but it ended up being really beautiful. And Kramer and Mike did a wonderful job of that, where we had all this depth. We were never sort of just in a corner or against a wall. You always knew that there was something behind you, and that it almost felt like a heavyweight champ as well, not deaf, but always being watched, or like, someone in that limelight. And I think that got portrayed really well.
Yeah. There was some shots, though, that had to be done in L.A. Did you use L.A. at all in your production design? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Mike and I were fighting for that forever within the world of just like the exteriors have to be L.A., right? Because Atlanta just looks different. Places look different. So we came up with a wonderful way of doing sort of a threefold, where we built a large portion of it on stage. That was wonderful, that mixed with an interior in Atlanta that we used a little bit above. And then we used an interior in Los Angeles that we had always talked about, that could see the sort of expanse of like where you are when you've reached the top of the mountain, which has a lot of other, sort of double entendres, throughout of what it is to be sitting on top, looking around at your whole experience. And again, being in somewhat of a fishbowl, and also their relationship being so playful within that environment. Yeah. It's great. And Jess, talk about the editing process. Of course, you worked with Tyler, but, I've seen so many sports movies with montages and things, and this one actually had a reason, I thought. It actually told the story between these two. And, it wasn't just, a cliched montage. It really was well done and moves the story forward.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind of you. I mean, I would say that is directly due to Mike and the amount of work that he put into the montage, because we worked on that, from day one of dailies until, I think that's like literally the very last edit we made was in the montage.
Correct.
It was something we worked on constantly. It went through many different versions, and it was just something that we kept working on. We kept trying new things. We kept checking all these different ideas. And what we realized most of all is you had to be emotionally connected with Adonis in that moment, and you had to understand where Damien was coming from and what he was pushing for. And so when we were coming in on the montage and we were landing there, then what we could do is, if we were emotionally connected with both those characters, then you could just go on this really great ride through the montage. And then you can underpin the whole montage with the real emotional reveal of Adonis needing to let go of the pain of his past, let go of the pain of this moment that he's been carrying, so that he can rise again and sort of face himself as he is in the current and in the present and in the future for himself, but also rise to the challenge of this fight, because he's been out of the ring and it's going to be a battle, because Damien is a formidable opponent. So that was it was a constant experiment and question, and I think we just worked it. And then Joe's contributions of the music also are a huge element of montage. And so he and Mike worked together, and I'll let them speak to that. But once they sort of landed on a structure for the music, then I was able to start pulling the edit into line with the music, and then you've got both things that are just sort of up on their feet and running together.
Yeah. All right. She just handed it off to you, Joe. But I think before Joe says anything, you worked as a tech assistant with Ludwig Göransson, and he, of course, scored the first two of the Creed trilogy so far. But you were there. But you got your shot. Michael, you gave him a shot here to be the composer on this, and he delivered.
Well, I appreciate that.
Rockstar.
Rockstar, yeah.
Mike put me in the ring, but it was yeah. I mean, it was full circle moment, and Mike and I have spoken about this too. But like, this is kind of my first time out, working on feature film. So it was really special for this to be the franchise that I got my first chance in. But working with Mike was incredible. I mean, like, we spent more time, I think, than normal on, a composer and a director don't get 6 or 7 months many times on, while they're working together. But what was really special is Michael would come over to the studio here, and we'd spend every Friday morning together and, working out new ideas and trying new things and experimenting. And it was really special to start firing those things back over to Jess and Tyler and, getting feedback and having an open conversation about this stuff for a longer period of time, so it was really special.
And you did incorporate, your score is wildly original and full of vocals and operatic things, quieter moments. You also incorporated the infamous Creed theme very judiciously as well.
Yes.
How did you decide to use that and incorporate that?
So that was a large discussion we had. I mean, Michael and I spoke about it at length for months, and obviously, the studio had certain thoughts on things, and it's like we didn't have Sylvester Stallone in the movie, so it was almost like the Creed is becoming its own thing. Creed 3 is the first step into a new direction for where this franchise is heading, and that's how Michael envisioned it, and that's everybody was working towards that goal, right? So now that we don't have Sylvester Stallone in this particular movie, we needed to be self-referential to other Creed movies as opposed to maybe more the Rocky musical fanfares and whatnot. We did reference Bill Conti at the end of the final fight in a really I would say poignant sort of way, because it's just, you've got to sort of have that. It's this conditioned response, but you want it and you need it, and having that really special Bill Conti Going the Distance theme did mean a lot to us at the end of that last that final fight. But yeah, we quoted a couple things here and there. We've built a new sound for Adonis. We've introduced some new character themes. Amara, his daughter. We had a sound for Marianne, and obviously a sound for Damien. And we really played with these things, interpolating themes on top of one another and expanding them, and incorporating Dr. Dre's music, hip hop production as a general sort of through line throughout the score. That was a really important thing for us. Having the stamp of like LA, was an important thing musically for us too. So yeah, there was a lot that I feel like we achieved, but it was just really special getting to sort of get under the hood with Michael on that.
A lot to listen to. And finally, before our time is up, I got to talk to you, Elizabeth Robinson, about the hairstyles here. And as Mike said, particularly with the women, Tessa and Felicia and